This is an opportunity for me to introduce my book, The Virtual Revolution, Virtual Property as Economic Rights in Data and its Use in Relation to Artificial Intelligence Products. In the book, I propose that user-centric economic rights in data, in plain speak, that's like just the right for users to own their own data and to make money off of its commercial uses. I pretty much argue that this must be done, that users must be granted the right to own their own property, or not even granted, but that that this right of users must be recognized, and that this should be done to counterbalance the adverse impact of transnational artificial persons on human rights and humanity in general. And this is mostly because AI-enabled technology that underlies most internet platforms today, so browsers, applications, and the online service provider industry generally, they are effectively the gatekeepers of web use and web access. And virtual property is on the web. And all of these entities and institutions like the online industry, let's say all of the actors, rely on the use of user data in the development and proliferation of their artificial intelligence products. And because internet users comprise 74% of the world's population, so that's like 6 billion people, the lack of users' rights to data ownership is something that has global implications for all of humanity. And this work, Virtual Revolution, it explores the foundational concepts behind an economy that's based on data ownership by users and user-directed commercialization of the use of data in processing code. And I call that virtualism. So I define virtualism as a data-driven economic system that recognizes data generation as human labor activity, and proposes a system of related human rights that involve the ownership of content data, as well as personality information, so profile name, image, and likeness data, as those are rooted, I propose in the book, in the virtual property rights of users. So this is different from the kind of personal information, personality information, when I'm talking about name, image, and likeness rights of users. This is different from personal information in the sense that personal information is protected under the EU Data Act and the General Data Protection Regulation. Those address the kind of overreaching of transnational corporations into the area of personal data, but this is like what I'm saying is one type of data. This is just one type of data. The book explains that there are many different forms of data as virtual property, and data as code, data as content, data as personality information. So again, coming back to this name, image, and likeness rights-based information that is not personal information. So this is like the difference between your actual name and your screen name, which also can be used, that is attributed to you, and that is a part of you in the sense of it's a persona. So your online persona, as it is attributable to a screen name or an account name or a profile name that is not your actual name. And the same thing with image. Like, so maybe you have a certain getup, or you are a certain avatar in connection with your screen name, profile name, or even maybe your screen name is your avatar name. So like that, that's not your personal information per se, but it is personality information that's attributable to you and has commercial value for you. So that stuff. And in addition to all that, of course, data privacy rights. So the rights that are protected under the EU Data Act and the GDPR. I talk about this in the book kind of a lot, and that's the fact that the GDPR and the EU Data Act are flawed in like a few fundamental ways. I'll tell you those right now. The first is the fact that they are acts of the European Parliament, which means that they apply to European citizens only. So this is the only kind of data that's protected in any way. That's privacy, personal data and it's under privacy laws. It has privacy protections. It doesn't at all, these regulations don't at all speak to the property right of users in their data. So even for European citizens, those regulations do not in any way recognize their property right in their data. And also, a thing is that they don't recognize the property rights of anyone to commercialize their data. So that means that there's no recognition of users' ability to be compensated in return for their agreement for the commercialization of their data. So let's say you go through all the trouble of reading all this stuff, you click yes, or you only click on certain, you only allow certain uses and certain processing or whatever of your data, and after all of that, it's just off to the races with your data in terms of to the market. So data brokers take it and sell it to this advertiser, that advertiser, the website who has placed the cookies are also a part of that ecosystem, that kind of information ecosystem, and who are commercializing the data that is being tracked using your devices, and no one is paying the users for this. So to me, that is also another right, that is the agreement to commercialize should be a compensated right. There is a compensable right under the tenets of virtualism. So that is in essence what the book is about in terms of identifying the problem and proposing some, and user rights being the proposed solution to that problem. However, there are a lot of other aspects to the virtualist solution, which is also presented in the book. The virtualist solution includes kind of a fair trade data, an approach to fair trade data, which is and some VRM, virtual rights management, which would assist people in the kind of a direct licensing of data for commercial use. And this I talk about a bit more in detail in the book. So if it all sounds interesting to you, take a look at that. I go through a lot of different approaches to licensing. I'm an intellectual property specialist. I practice intellectual property law for I don't know, more than 15 years. And it's the only type of law that I practiced as an attorney. I'm an artist and an advocate, and also now an activist. I mean, I had my moments with activism in my younger life, but it seems that that fire never really went away. So I'm back at it, but this is I feel like a really important moment in history for humanity, for our entire planet, and we're more connected than ever. And in the chapter in the book called The Virtualist Solution, it has its own chapter. I talk more in depth about how we can empower ourselves as users through coming together and uniting under one organization that has global voice, that represents one global voice of the user community, and then would allow for some leverage to be made in terms of platform policy and international policy and the treatment of data. So because it's not going to be, it can't be a one nation type solution, and it can't be an intergovernmental only organization type solution, because intergovernmental organizations are only participated in to the extent that the nation state chooses to engage. And this isn't even a nation state issue. It is a technology company, artificial person issue. And they operate on a transnational scale, and they don't answer to any nation's laws or even international law, because international law applies only to nation states, not to private actors like artificial persons. I call them artificial persons, and they develop artificial intelligence products. So we as humans need to deal with this situation, because we are the ones who will be impacted. Our civilization, life in reality as we know it, is what is at stake, you know. So it's a very important time for us to come together. And again, when I talk about the virtualist solution, it talks a lot, in the virtualist solution, it talks a lot about the, this has been a trend, you know, that this has always been what's required when we face this level of threat to civilization. So in terms of what's always been required is humanity uniting in some way and coming together and putting aside these things, these artificial differences between us, like nationhood, class, race, gender, you know, sexuality. All of this needs to be put to the side because humanity is under threat. So, and this is what we've been able to do in the past, and this is what we need to do now. And the nice thing that we have now that we never had before, and this is what I'm saying unites us as a community of almost 6 billion people, is we have this internet environment, the virtual environment, in which we can take control of its tools, and allow ourselves to manage these tools in a way that supports us and supports our future and supports our development as a civilization moving forward. And that this is exactly what's required of us now. So if any of this interests you, then buy the book. There are also a couple of chapters that are available on SSRN. There will be links to both to where you, and the table of contents is there also on SSRN, so you can take a look and see what I talk about. If you still need a little bit more convincing. But those of you who are convinced, the book can be purchased on Amazon, for Amazon Kindle, and also on iBook, and also through our website. All those links will be around this video. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, I worked really hard on this work. It is the culmination of decades of, like I said, of practice in this area. Specifically with technology, specifically with online service providers and online service provider practices, and I'm very excited to share that with you, and to guide anyone who's interested into this new way of being that will hopefully save our world. And I appreciate your patience. Thank you so much. See you soon, I hope. And happy reading.